Bortle here at YCS Orlando with, we have a top 64 contestant, second after Swiss, correct? My goodness. Yo, please introduce yourself to the world.
My name's Luka Kovac. I came top 64 at YCS Orlando. I was second after Swiss. I had an X1 record, but my breakers were pretty good. My only loss was round 2, funny enough. I lost because I drew unplayable twice, and I ended up just like, there was nothing I could do.
And what happened top cut?
It's tough, man. Like game one I set up a board, I got Tronist and died, and then game 2 we went down into like, it wasn't really a game. Like my ice got impermed, it was the only engine card in my hand, and I just couldn't recover from it after. It was pretty bad. It happens sometimes.
Yeah, and not sure if you mentioned it, what deck were you using?
I was playing pure Ryzeal today, so I thought it was not necessarily the best deck for the event, but the best call I could make. I wasn't particularly interested in playing Malice just because like getting variance 1 out of 3 times by Lancia, and then like you still have other problem cards like Fua. Malice just got introduced. I don't think that card is good, but there's a lot of people that have been playing it lately that I've seen playing it. So I didn't feel comfortable taking that as a choice, and then Fiendsmith Ryzeal as well. I didn't really feel comfortable playing the Fiendsmith cards just because it almost felt like every time I drew a Fiendsmith card in testing, it was getting Bastilled, and every time Magma resolved, I just lost the game immediately. And that was kind of the reason I wanted to play Pure today.
Okay. Before we start the profile, any shoutouts, man?
Shout out to my locals, Untouchables. Shout out to all the guys I roomed with. Matt for testing, Rayhan for testing, Santoli, all the guys. That's pretty much it.
Without further ado, please take it away with the group.
Yeah, for sure. So 3 ice, 3 sword, 3 X, 3 bonfire. It's pretty standard stuff. These are kind of the starters. It's pretty standard ratios if you're playing pure. You do have to play the props just because there's not enough consistency in the deck, so you need another engine piece in case like you just straight up don't draw any. It happened, I think it was 5 or 6 times today that I just drew completely unplayable, which like mathematically shouldn't be happening that many times, but like, you know, happens sometimes. Still came second, so I'm pretty happy with the result regardless, but like, you know, it's fine. And then I played 3 copies of Desires, so this is kind of needed. If you're not playing Fiendsmith cards, this is definitely the best card to play in your deck. Even if you banish like names, it doesn't even matter, because like drawing those 2 cards is so important just because A, it's more consistency, B, like you just need as many cards as possible to play with this deck, because if you don't have those cards, you're probably going to be losing the game, because you need to be able to find like your high impact cards, like you'll see later in the profile. And if you don't find those cards, a lot of the time it's very tough to recover in like turn 3, turn 4. So I think this card is great.
Okay.
And then for the engine requirements, so I played 2 cross, 1 plug-in, 1 node. Node's great. This card's like incredible. Came up so much. Obviously, I mean, it's like the best card in the deck. And then I played 2 cross just because this card is so strong. Like the negation effect is really good. You want to be drawing it going first, just because like you draw cross, and like you do there's a combo where you can send the 1 duo drive with X, and then you can attach it with this, and because you already have cross up, you're playing around like Veiler, Ash, Ogre, Nib, pretty much every hand trap in the game, and like your duo drive only gets stopped by Imperm, so I felt like it was really solid today. And then plug-in is also really good just because in Pure you need access to more tools in order to beat decks, like versus like when you're playing Fiendsmith Ryzeal, obviously you have access to stuff like Lacrima, Caesar, and like different end board pieces. Whereas in this deck, if your detonator gets impermed, it's like very hard to recover if you don't have anything else. But like obviously you have like your generics and stuff, but in terms of just engine, you're ending on like maybe Dweller plus a detonator, and like cross. But like you're trying to play more conservative, more mid-range style, and just because of that, you need to be playing the plug-in, just because of how good it is.
All right.
And for the hand traps, I played 2 Nib, 3 Imperm, 3 Veiler, 3 Fua, 3 Ash. I played 14 today. I thought it was pretty solid. The view was like, it was alright. In testing, I kept drawing this card, but I only drew Nib, and if you only draw Nib in a deck like this, you're probably losing the game. Versus Fiendsmith, they're still making like detonator through it. versus a lot of decks, like this nib alone won't be doing much. Like even versus Malice, all they need is like one Disseal to play through it. It's like very tough to recover if you don't have a way to stop them from it, or like if you don't have a way to force them into making like a half board turn 1. All the other hand traps are super solid. Fua kind of like, I have a love-hate relationship with Fua just because I draw this card every time I go first. And that's like really bad when you're playing a deck like this, just because it's like one less card in your hand that does something going second or going first, which you definitely need. Veiler was good, Ash was good, Imperm was good. Like I have no complaints about any of these cards. They did really well for me today.
Okay.
And yeah, that was pretty much it for the hand traps.
Nice.
And in terms of breakers, I played 3 copies of Talents. So this card in this deck is like absurd. I break down it a couple times, but like, you know, the look at your hand effect going first is like crazy just because you have hand knowledge in order to like beat whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
The draw effect is really good when you get hand trapped, just because this deck obviously like you're playing 13 cards that actually start your plays. If you don't draw those 13 cards, it's a little bit tough to get going. If one gets impermed and you don't have access to another, Talents is usually there to save the day, unless it's impermed, and then you scry. Okay. And then the take effect came up a lot today, just because what would end up happening versus Ryzeal Fiendsmith, I think round 7, the take effect came up just because we were going into time. My opponent was playing like super quick, so they like ashed the duo drive or something. Talents took their Chaos Angel, which I had no ed to, which again another problem with the deck, but like that is fine, it's fine.
Yeah.
But like Talents took his Chaos Angel and killed him with it, just because he literally Chaos Angel passed for like 7 turns in a row because he couldn't play through my board. It was kind of awkward, but like Talents was like super strong today. You can also take stuff like detonators and other stuff, and you can like stick it under your twins so they don't get it back. It's pretty decent. Yeah.
Nice.
So it was like pretty nice. And then the last 2 cards in the main were Strike. Shout out Rayhan for his deck list, and then shout out Santoli for like inventing this really. This card was like crazy the entire day. Every time I drew Strike going first, I won. Like there wasn't a single game where I drew this and lost.
Jeez. What's the main deck count?
Main deck count was 40 on the dot. I don't think I could.
God, yes.
There were people playing 41 initially with 3 nib in our testing group. I don't think that's correct because like you don't have the consistency to be doing that, and like I didn't really like nib initially, but like it's really good to draw going first with like your detonator board and everything, because even if you get impermed or if anything happens to your board, you still have like the plugin set to like reborn for follow-up, and then you can nib over your own detonator and then summon it back with twins, which is like a really nice play because like they have nothing really, and then they're trying to recover from a board state that's like pretty much unwinnable now through a double detonator. For the extra deck, this is pretty standard stuff. 2 detonator, 2 duo drive, 2 eclipse twins, aggregator. These cards are like the mandatory cards that you have to play. Detonator, honestly, sometimes I wish I felt like I had too little of this card, just because like when it gets Tronist and stuff, it doesn't, there's a lot of game states where you're like stuck with 1 detonator in your extra deck, and if you make that detonator, sometimes it'll get sent or whatever. That kind of improved because I put the second cross in my deck. Initially I wasn't playing it until like maybe 3 days before the event, but with the second cross that issue got a little bit better, especially because I kept banishing the first cross off Desires. But I think playing 2 was probably correct. There were like there's once where I needed the 3rd one, but like I revived it off Dugaris or something, and it was like the same result basically. And like these were the generic extra deck tools I kind of played: Exiton, Dweller, Dugaris, Duguska. This card, I don't think I summoned it once, which is really funny because this is like supposed to be your best breaker. So in theory, this card seemed really, really decent into Malice. Turns out this card is really, really bad into Malice because if you don't kill him, you're basically losing the game, like no matter what. The follow-up is just too strong. They're switching the second field spell, they have the Dormouse, everything's set up. Like, it's very difficult to beat that deck after they start playing. So like, Exiton really isn't the card you want to be making against that deck. And then I played Abyss Dweller. This is the card I made blind the entire weekend. So like, the thought process was, I asked for a deck count. If it was anything over 40, I'd make Dweller. Just because like, generally if they're playing 40, it's either a Feast with pile, it's like Feast with Ryzeal, or like some bullshit Primite deck, you know, like, you know how it is. So if you make this, a lot of the time you're just winning the game immediately. It's also really good against Mitsu because the tribute effects don't activate. So it was like super solid. Dugaris was also really good. So if they said 40, I was making Dugaris instead to draw some cards, just because drawing into like Nib, Strike, Judgment, any sort of like I guess hate card in the deck. This card was like really good into. I guess the doubling effect comes up a lot as well, because that's like really the only way to out a light Chaos Angel outside of like duo drive plus detonator. If it's just to like make it like 3,200 and then the detonator would be 3,300. Like those are the only two ways you have a way to out like an unaffected monster that's big. And then Bagusco was like one of the last cards I played. I think I made this card once the whole weekend. And it was because I was in such a losing game state that I needed to wait like 3 turns in order to draw something okay to play. And my opponent just couldn't like out the Bagusco plus cross plus duo drive. So it was like a pretty decent spot to be in. Shout out to Santoli for telling me that like 3 days before the event as well. That was really funny. But yeah, that was great. And then I decided to play Tornado Dragon. Popping back row was really good, especially post side. I'm scared of like Strike and Judgment a lot of the time, just because that's like every Malice player I played today was on Strike for some reason. It was crazy. But like popping the back row meant like my detonator would resolve after the first one got Tronist. So it was like, I thought it was a pretty good call. There also be stuff like Impulse that's set, or like I don't know. I just like, ran a back row like Imperm, so it was like pretty decent. And I played Light Dragon. So this card, I don't understand why people were playing Castel over this, just because Castel is a 2k body, and I get the bounce is like pretty decent, but like this is non-targeting number 1, which is like super important for trying to out something like Desiree. And then there's also the fact that this card, there's an OTK line where you can make a duo drive with 1 material under it, plus Light Dragon, plus detonator, which is a lot easier to do with plugin. So that represents 8,100 damage on board, and then you can pop a monster on board with the Light Dragon as well. So it's like pretty easy to get to game. And then the last 2 cards in the extra deck were Typhon. This card was like, honestly, every time I made this card, I'm pretty sure I lost. Unless I set up like Typhon plus like 2 Strike. Other than that, like it's very difficult to win the game after resolving a Typhon in this format, because they just get everything back immediately. And I played Haggard over Donner, because I didn't like the fact that Donner lost to Imperm. Whereas like with the Nib token, if you summon it in an attack position, you can Haggard it to make it 800, and then like you can just beat over it with another Ryzeal monster, which I thought was pretty, like good enough to warrant playing it. So that was my main deck.
That's what's up. And real quick, your side deck?
Yeah, of course. So played 3 copies of Lancia, 3 copies of Droll, Malice, Mitsu, 3 Slayer, Feast with Ryzeal, any Ryzeal deck really. I didn't want to side this into to Malice, just because like Abaus plus GWC was like really bad every time I saw it. And then I played Duster, Double Storm. So like these cards were pretty good as well. I like siding these into Malice, and if I played any pure, I'd probably side this in. But I played like 0, which was like really unfortunate, because like I kind of thought there'd be more of that, just because like pure's a lot cheaper than playing like Fiendsmith and stuff, but I guess it's the YCS. And then the concern around Bestials, I thought other people would have them as well, but turns out only 4 pure made top 64. It was me, Santoli, a buddy of ours, and a 4th guy that I don't know the name of. And then 3 Judgment. This card's like insane. Like every time I resolve this, except the last game in Top Cut, I won. But the Judgment wasn't the problem. He passed after getting Judgmented. It happens sometimes, you know. Sometimes you just draw bad, and you know.
That's what's up, man. Very impressive. Only losing once during Swiss. That's 12 round Swiss. My goodness. And congrats on top 64, man.
Thank you.
Until next time, everyone. Bortle out.